Hi everyone, welcome to Government Matters. I'm Meredith, President of the Braintree Town Council. This program puts a spotlight on the town of Braintree and its inner workings. As environmental impacts and sustainability are ongoing topics in the town, today I'm really excited to be expanding this discussion with members of Sustainable Braintree. I have with us today President Rachel Horak and Vice President Mike Kavanaugh. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So for people who might not know about Sustainable Braintree, Rachel and then Mike, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how Sustainable Braintree started and what your mission is.
Yeah, I'll start with the mission. So I'll read it because I think it's a great mission. Sustainable Braintree is a community advocacy group committed to helping Braintree residents, community groups, businesses, and local government conserve energy, promote clean and renewable energy, protect and restore the environment, and live healthy, sustainable lifestyles. And that really tells you all the aspects that we're interested in. And I'll let Mike tell about the history.
Yeah, we've been around since 2008. Sustainable Braintree started as a kind of a chapter of Sustainable South Shore. And really kind of started out from the Unitarian Church on Elm Street. And then once that kind of group got together there, they kind of put a call out to people in town, and a lot of people responded, and the group grew really quickly. There was a couple of pretty high profile fundraisers we had in 2008, 9, 10. And then the group really started to focus on what it was that we were about and what it was that we were trying to do in the town. And so we developed these focus areas with different task force to focus on things. And we've been around since then. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, all volunteers and all local.
That is awesome. And I know I have been a member of Sustainable Braintree and know that the work that the Sustainable Braintree group does is so important to our community. So on that note, maybe you can talk about some of your highlights and successes, especially around some of our policy for environmental policy in town.
Yeah. I think starting with the history, it was mostly about raising awareness of environmental issues related to, energy and carbon emissions and climate, all the way through water conservation and protection of natural resources. So the things that we've done have kind of hopped around to all those different things. I think, some of the things have been, early on, we were advocates of, back when compact fluorescent lights were a thing, like trying to get people to switch to CFLs. Now LEDs have taken over, and which is great because they're much better than CFLs. So we had a program called Watts Off the Street. A big thing was the starting of the Braintree Farmers Market, which was originally a part of Sustainable Braintree, and now we're very closely aligned with the Farmers Market, but it's a different organization. So getting that started, raising awareness about local foods. I don't know, some of the other things about, what about energy maybe?
Yeah, so Braintree is a green community of Massachusetts, and that was designated in 2020. And it provides grants from the state of Massachusetts to do energy efficient upgrades and promote sustainable and green living. So I think that was a really great designation. And so members of our group try to do what we can to promote that, advocate for that in our local government to make sure that the policies and things like the master plan are fitting within the green communities designation.
That's a great point, Rachel, and I want to reiterate that organizations like Sustainable Braintree really are so important in our civic life because they do help inform the decisions that are made at Town Hall. And getting the Green Communities designation is one of those that required a vote of the Town Council in support of the Mayor's office, but was driven in large part by the advocacy of Sustainable Braintree. So a huge benefit to the community and an ongoing one as well. And I think that's a great segue because I know you've also been very active in our master planning process, which is a way for our community to set a vision and a course for the next 5, 10, 20 years of where we want to go as a community. And sustainability is one of those pillars. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the work that Sustainable Braintree has done on the master planning process.
Yeah. We've really been involved with every step of the master plan process. It's been really exciting. We've sent myself and Michael and then lots of other members of Sustainable Braintree to part 1, part 2, and part 3, and we're trying to advocate for solutions that will help our town meet the requirements of the net zero energy reduction plan set by Massachusetts. So there was a law passed a couple of years ago by the state legislature that said that Massachusetts should be on its way to net carbon zero emissions by the year 2050. Well, we have a long way to go. And so that's one of our biggest initiatives, is working with the master plan and thinking about how can we get Braintree to meet that law, the stipulations of that law by 2050. We have a long way to go, and we've got a lot of changes to do. So thinking about creating more walkable areas, and so that people can walk or bike or take mass transit instead of personal cars.
That's a great point. Did you want to add something, Mike?
Yeah, no, I think 2050 seems like a long way off, but all the investments that need to be made to support a master plan, like is being talked about, you need to consider all these things as you're developing it now and kind of planning for it, because we can't just in 2050 say, well, hey, we decided we finally want to be net zero carbon. Let's do it. You would have had to have started those things 30 years before. So we're at the right timing to hit that mark.
That is a really good point, and I don't know if many residents are aware that the state it is a law to be net zero, which means no carbon or carbon neutral by 2050. So that's very ambitious. It's one of the most ambitious goals in the country, and anything that Braintree can do to help the state achieve those goals is going to be absolutely critical. And we're glad that your organization is a part of that effort, because it will take all of us to get there. So maybe, and Rachel, you touched on this a little bit about part 1, part 2, part 3 of the master planning process, but maybe you can either tell us what each of those parts is, or pick one part that you feel is most important for sustainability and conservation in Braintree.
Yeah. I think looking toward the future and setting those targets in the part 3 of the master plan is really critical, because we're all about sustainability so that we can be here into the future and live in harmony with our environment, right? Because we cannot be separated from the area in which we live. So I was really interested in that process and trying to think of what are some targets and some goals that we can do as a town to try to reduce our carbon footprint. So reducing our carbon footprint is a key phrase in the vision statement of the master plan. And that's, I think, where our organization can really help and identify ways and targets that we can meet those visions.
So are there other, in addition to the town council, are there other departments in town that you partner with, and whether it's BELD or the schools or the DPW, to help achieve some of the goals that you have all set forth?
Yeah, I mean, BELD is a huge part of it. So we're one of 41 municipalities in the state that has its own municipal light plant, that they're called. And one of the things that happened a few years ago was the passage of the climate roadmap bill at the state level, which basically says that BELD, which really didn't, BELD was doing a good job in procuring renewables on their own, because it makes financial sense and it's a good thing to do. But the new climate legislation that passed in 2021 basically says, well, that's great that you're doing that stuff, but now you really need to be part of a measured kind of countdown to carbon or net zero carbon. So BELD is a huge part of it, and as we move forward, with green buildings and green infrastructure, that really needs to be electrified, fully electric buildings, electric vehicles. And obviously that's what BELD does. So BELD, right now plays a big part in, the decarbonization of the town, but in the future it's going to play an even larger part, because all of our power is going to come from electricity, not just some of it.
Yeah, and we're so lucky in Braintree to have our own municipal light department that is governed by us, by the residents of the town, and are willing and ready to partner with groups like Sustainable Braintree. So maybe we can change tacks a little bit and talk about some of your upcoming initiatives that you have, whether it's, I know you've got whack-a-weed event coming up, and you've got the community garden that's probably well underway now that growing season and warm weather is upon us. But maybe you can talk about some of your summertime initiatives.
I'm most excited about our community garden. So we have 30 plots available to members of, we don't have to be a member of Sustainable Braintree, but available to residents of Braintree. And we just opened our season a few weeks ago, and it's beautiful. I've been a member there for 6 years, and I grow my own flowers and organic vegetables. And it's a great way to bring the community together and learn a little bit about growing things, right? So, you know, a part of being sustainable is trying to reduce your reliance on big agriculture, vegetables, and finding ways that you can return your gifts to the earth. So that's really fun. And then we also have Let's Whack Some Weeds at the Pond Meadow Park. It'll be Sunday, July 11th, starting at 10 a.m. And we're co-hosting it with the High School Environmental Club. And the purpose there is to raise awareness and to start to beautify Pond Meadow Park. It's been damaged by invasive species and invasive weeds, such as garlic mustard, and it just takes away from the natural beauty of the park. So we're gonna meet there, and the entire public is invited to help us. We'll help you identify the plants. And we're gonna go in and we're gonna pull up the weeds and try to make Pond Meadow Park a more beautiful place to be at.
And that's Sunday, June 11th, right, at 10 a.m., starting at 10 a.m. So what should residents who want to join bring with them? Do they need gloves or any special tools or anything like that?
First, I'd recommend gloves and long sleeves. I did a similar event to this a couple weeks ago, poison ivy all over my arms. So I highly recommend gloves and long sleeves to protect from poison ivy, but good walking shoes and some sunblock.
And we have a Facebook page which has more information about it, so if people want to learn more about it or even sign up to go, it's an event on our Facebook page.
Awesome.
It's always good to know how many people might be showing up.
Yeah, that's a great event, and I think, again, raising awareness. I certainly have been learning a lot from one of my fellow counselors, Counselor Flaherty, about invasive species at Pond Meadow Park, and if you don't know what they are, you would never know that they're all over Pond Meadow Park and the damage they cause to the biodiversity of the park. So thank you for sponsoring that with the BHS Environmental Club. And then for the community garden, Rachel, can anyone go and walk around and see what's going on up in Perkins Park, or do you have to have a garden membership?
Everybody is welcome to come and enjoy the beauty of the space.
That's great.
The plots are only $30 for the entire season, and we provide a nice sized plot and a little bit of help to get you started. And you have an entire community of people who love to be outdoors, tending their garden, and that you can learn from.
That is a great resource to have in town. I'm not sure that many people know we have it, so hopefully this episode will remind people that we have Perkins Park Garden, and I know also the Flaherty School has a school garden as well. So there was lots going on, and if residents wanted to start a community garden, how did Sustainable Braintree go about doing that?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's really a grassroots, no pun intended, effort, right? So you really need a couple people that really want to make it happen. As an all volunteer nonprofit, we all have day jobs, right? So there's things we can do. We can give advice and stuff like that. But you really need a couple of core volunteers to do some of those things. That's what happened with the Flaherty School Garden. It was started by a couple of core volunteers. And they actually got funding, I think from Whole Foods was doing grants at one point, but they also did a partner with a local Eagle Scout that was looking for a project to do, and so there was some work that was done there. So I think, just kind of building a grassroots effort around doing that, and I think the biggest part is, seeing if the school and the teachers want to get involved, because those gardens in schools in particular really have a huge educational value, or they can. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's really needs to be a pretty broad-based effort to get something like that going. And I know you need water source, and you need space, and you need sunshine. So Sometimes it's easier said than done, but it is achievable. We have 2 gardens in town right now, and hopefully more to come in the future. So maybe you can talk a little bit about some ways that residents can get involved. Webinars, I know you guys, Sustainable Braintree has put webinars on in recent years, especially with the pandemic shifting things online, but sometimes that's more accessible for people to see at home. So what are some of the those initiatives that you have going on?
Well, first you can become a member. So we have a website, sustainablebraintree.com, and you can learn more about our organization. We have a Facebook page as well, so follow us there. And so we have several events every year. So we intend to have at least one yearly webinar for the entire community free of charge about something related to environmental concerns in the town. And then we usually host either walks along the Manatequit River or the Pond Meadow cleanup every year. So do follow us and become a member, and you can be informed of our future events.
Yeah, we try and get a good mix of, some educational things online because it's very convenient, but the walks that we've done along Smelt Brook, in the landing, and other places have, you can't do everything virtual, right? You have to get outside, and that just increases your appreciation of what we actually have here, which is a lot of really nice natural resources that are worth protecting and worth considering as we, do things like master plans and the like.
Well, I am certainly really grateful that Sustainable Braintree is so active in our community, and I would encourage even more people to please check it out and get involved. As you've heard today, there's lots of different ways if you're interested in environmental policy or literally getting your hands dirty. Sustainable Braintree is a place for you. So I would really like to thank both of you for being here with me today and helping to talk about the work of Sustainable Braintree does and its partnership with our community. So thank you so much again.